Hello, hello. Welcome to the Story Darlings podcast. I'm Sandra.
And I'm Tara.
Tara, what are we talking about today?
We are finally talking about The Mist Thief, which is a part of the Everqueen series. Is it the Everqueen or the Everking series?
It's the Everseas.
Okay. Everseas series.
The series is so much fun. I just like the dynamic that L.J. Andrews is writing with each of these love interest pairings. And then I think it was you. Didn't you tell me the next book title was The Stolen Crown? So that's coming out soon.
And we get a little bit of an epilogue in this book that kind of hints to who's going to be a part of that. And I cannot wait. Because we'll get to hear Mira's story.
It's going to be so much fun. Even
I
the
love
little
Mira. She
moments
is
that we
great.
had.
And I love that the story was Jonas because, and I also really, really appreciate that I finally picked a book boyfriend that did not turn to shit.
Yay! Tara's making progress.
Yes.
He was so dreamy. He was perfect.
Yes.
Perfect amount of violence for his woman, and all of the dialogue lines were hilarious. And more
I
Sander
love
too.
the interaction with the whole of the Oliver clan.
Yes. One thing that kind of, I think it started coming out like the second book, but was just further cemented in this book is just the relationship with the parents. I love how LJ Andrews writes the parent representation in the book. They're just always so supportive, and you see them as these outside entities. They're outside entities of their own children, and still very much like the husband and wife. You can feel and see the romance and tension between them still. So there's still that spark, and I just love the interactions with their kids too.
I also love that they feel like full characters, right? They have their own entity, and it's not just as a parent. Because we saw that with Livy's dad. And yes, he was her dad. Yes, he was fighting to get her back. Yes, he was mad because she was taken and all of these things that revolved around her and their relationship. But then when you see him in battle, you see him as a full, complete person. And you see that with the twins, mom and dad, in this.
The twins are so hilarious too.
I also like how their powers worked together in this book.
All of them in the family have just really cool things. The mom too, like a little bit scary and alarming, but yeah.
Well, they all work together. Like their powers all intermingled just a little bit.
The Nightmare Princes.
It made for nightmarish outcomes, but it was great when you saw how that impacted Skadi and how she felt about herself.
I loved how they worked that in for her to make her feel included and like she belonged. This book had so many good moments like that. So in the ending of The Everqueen, this is when Skadi, because she can take anything and make it disappear, move it from place to place. This doesn't have to be just physical things. It could be like magic, vows, like bonds and that kind of thing. And so she had removed the violence from the chasm and passed out. And that's when we saw Jonas help her. And then he made the vow, or I guess he offered to marry her, right? As a way of getting around this elven kinship thing, because she's still betrothed to Orion. And then in this book, it picks up, the prologue was so funny because she's sneaking out to go to the tavern the night before their wedding day, their vow day. And the whole thing was just a ploy that, Jonas got a bunch of the dudes together to just play along. It was almost like she walked into like a set, like an acting set. And all this stuff is happening, and he's pretending to be like this drunkard at the end of the bar, and gets her to start talking about, why she's there. She's like, I'm going to be, I forget what she says, like the exact wording. And all of this snarky banter just comes out. I just love this scene so much.
I think this is the first scene where she calls him a nightmare. And he's like, well, I wouldn't really call myself a nightmare.
I think the dialogue, oh yeah, he was like, why are you here? And she was like, a mate, more like a jailer. And he said, now that's taking it too far. He got out of
character.
And then she has the thought, was it the rum, or did the drunkard's voice shift to something smoother, something dark and deep? I draw the line at being called a jailer princess, my future husband, Jonas of House Ericsson. And then from here on out, it's just this kind of dynamic between the two of them. And there was even a scene later when she's in the palace of the Alvers, and he keeps trying to poke jabs at her, saying that, oh, he's going to make her come so many times. Like, he's going to get her to unwind. He starts calling her his fire because he likes to see that feistiness to her. And so they're having all this back and forth in the palace, and he always has to have the last word, right? Which drives her insane. So she gets very frustrated, like spins on her wheel, like spins on her heel, heads off, and then immediately runs into his parents. And they're like, yep, we heard that whole conversation about all the ways that he was going to make you come and all of this stuff. And she's just mortified because one of the things that she's dealing with throughout this book is just the whole difference between the elven culture, which is very misogynistic, and then how things are in this land of the thieves and tricksters.
Yeah, that was the first time that she really saw women be anything more than just a puppet when they were doing the vows in the first place. And the king of the Alvers said, my wife will go where I go, and my wife will read what I read. I take her word, as the highest authority. And then he even got a little feisty with somebody when they said that she wasn't. And he's like, she's the one who's the heir by blood. Yeah. So yeah, she is. She's just as worthy as I am. Quit putting my woman down.
I love all these fae men defending their women.
And the wife even stood up and she's like, what's this clause about her having to be faithful to my son, but he can take lovers? Like, he ain't taking lovers. Like, I'm not allowing it. And the Elva were very taken aback and questioning a king not having a mistress. And she basically told them that if he ever takes a mistress, that will be the last thing he does. And he will be dead.
There were so many ways that Jonas just used his flirtatious nature and his charm to kind of win her over and melt her ice cold heart.
At the same time, he was being thawed too, because you see, even from the get-go, like, he wasn't as hard as he wanted to seem, because he gave her the bigger window in his room because he knew that she liked the gardens, and he took the smaller window, even though he liked the gardens just as much as she did, but he wanted her to be at peace in his house. And then he has the whole, like, boy crew up in the attics working on this library for her, which, as a book girly, that wins my heart, that he knew her well enough that he knew that she loved books even before they were vowed. He was trying to make her comfortable in his house. I'm like, oh.
And not just any books, but romance books too, like fae tales and that kind of thing. I mean, he went through stealing a couple trunks of books from her temporarily as the surprise. There was one line where she was like, have you been reading my books? Because that sounds like a line that the hero of the love story would say. It's like, maybe he was.
I did enjoy their back and forth, and then their enemies to lovers slow burn, because it took a while for us to get any spicy scenes.
But even during the vow ceremony, first off, there was the terms and conditions alliance meeting the night before. This is when the elven do what elves do, I guess, which is to be a little tricksy and stuff and use their knowledge of Case, Jonas's father, against him, knowing that he would be very prideful and include his wife, who is just she's mortal, right? Like, she's not fae.
No, wait, she is fae, isn't she? I think it's Livy's mom that is mortal.
Yeah, it's Elise. Yeah, Elise is. Then why couldn't she see the...
Because she wasn't a king. It was a spell for kings touching it that would like activate the new terms. Yeah. And so because he didn't touch the scrolls, it didn't activate the Elvish or the terms written in Elvish.
I think this whole thing where the grandfather, Eldorard, is that his name? How he was talking to her and what her duties would be as a wife and all of this stuff. That's when my opinion started changing because you kind of got the sweet grandfather vibe in the previous book. And then in this one, it was a complete 180 to me, anyways.
I felt some of that 180 happening in the last book because of the way he was treating her. But yeah, you get it confirmed that it feels like he never actually cared about her. He cared about the power that he was going to get because of her, than her as a person. And you do learn that that was a part of a scheme, and I don't know if he actually killed her parents or if he had somebody do that, but he had her parents killed or killed them so that he could gain access to her. But then she ran away thinking the worst, and the island hid her.
Well, I
The
guess that
island has always been
explains.
on her side.
Yeah. And didn't she run away for like 2 years or something?
Mm-hmm.
Is like that amount of time that she was just kind of this kid in the treetops. Like you learn that she's a treetop elf too. So that they live in these little beautiful tree houses just out in the wilderness. It made me so sad. You started getting those inklings that something nefarious happened. Like it wasn't actually her that killed
Uh-huh.
her parents, which is how they led her to believe. But all of the things that she lived through, even being betrothed to Orion and then his guard. What is that guy's name?
Cayenne.
Cayenne? Is that how you like cayenne pepper? Cayenne pepper. I mean, the sadists that they are,
Yeah.
you just hear about all of these traumas that she went through, and you felt so bad for her.
Well, nobody really cared about her. You also find out that the king had been plotting since before he even knew her at all. He had just heard that there was a child born that had this
Yeah.
power. There was a prophecy that he thought that that fit, and so he made this betrothal before he even knew who the child was or how to get to her between Orion and her. So she just had zero power in her entire life until coming to the Alvars, and they had to retrain her to speak for herself and to have confidence in herself
Mm-hmm.
and to feel her feelings, because that had also been taken away from her. She wasn't allowed to have feelings. It was a growing cycle for her.
Which is exactly what she did throughout this entire book. I would say this was not a plot heavy book at all.
Mm-mm.
It was very character driven and very centered on her opening up, and even Jonas too, because you find out that he has a lot of traumas too, specifically around, and this explains how disheveled he was at the end of the last book when you get that glimpse of, is it Eric coming through the chasm and Jonas finds him and Jonas looks ragged, and you find out that his mesmer kind of curses him with these fevers and nightmares that are very scary for him. Like he has trouble shaking out of them and they affect him very physically. And so Livia being taken away by Eric had this negative impact on him. So then we start seeing the more that he opens up and starts caring about, what's her name?
Skadi.
Skadi. The more he starts caring about Skadi, like the deeper that fear starts growing too. And so he's having to grapple with that. And she's trying to help him through that. They're both these little tortured souls that are finding each other and trying to help each other.
The scenes of him getting trapped in his mesmer got to me because that is what he does to other people. And it's his own fears that he's letting control him because he sees it in other people. And his fear is losing those that he loves. So in the last two books, poor boy, he's almost lost or thought he lost Livy. He's almost lost his brother. And then now he's having to grapple with the fact that he is falling in love with his wife. And
Heaven
it is
forbid.
likely that somebody is trying to take her away from him too. And he is just losing his mind. But
Mm-hmm.
in the like most savage way possible too. Because he is not going down without a fight on losing Scotty.
Oh, I
And the
loved
scene
seeing
where he
this.
takes out Cayenne, or however we're pronouncing that, I don't know. Oh, it was your morally gray, I will burn the world for you, no matter the consequences. I
Yeah, I
love
forget
that
who.
scene in all of its goriness.
I mean, it was very parallel to Eric torturing those two guys that tried to kill him and Livy, right? When they were getting
Mm-hmm.
their little sexy time on. And I forget who he brought. Vaughn, I think, was one of the
Mm-hmm.
guys with him. And it's like,
Well, Sander came, but I don't know that he brought him so much as he was just as mad. And that also got me because Sander was just as mad about every single like thwart to Skadi or degradation or anything. And I loved it. I loved that his love for his brother then immediately went to Skadi, even though she, in Jonas's mind, tried to kill Sander. But in Sander's mind, he knew she didn't actually try to kill me. It just accidentally happened as she was trying to save somebody else she loved. And so you see Jonas also putting that together as they spend time together, that it was an accident. She didn't mean to try and kill your brother. I think he finally releases any amount of hurt he had over that, and just seeing Sander already have given it up and basically being in love with her, but not in love, but loves her as a sister.
I don't think there were any even vague romantic notions of who would be matched with Sander in this book, right?
No.
He's just so into books and knowledge. I mean, with this being a 6-book series, and we know the next book is about Mira and Tate.
And Heart Talker.
Heart Talker. Oh, every time that she called him, he was just like, Heart Walker. Which just gets so pissed.
I do enjoy me some Tate for his gruffness. I love the snark, but I also love the gruff. Like,
Oh, it's going to be the ultimate grumpy sunshine trope.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wait to see this play out.
So there was a girl in this one, Frigg, that they're close with that I think might be a good fit for Sander, because she seemed
I thought
very.
She was lesbian, isn't she?
Oh, she was. Never mind. But they would be a good couple.
Yeah,
because she was very like flighty, and Sander's very serious. So no, she was okay. Never mind. No, there really was not anybody.
I was like, yeah. I'm trying to rack my brain. Other characters. There was Aveline.
Oh, he could. Okay, so there was the new queen of the Elvins. I can't pronounce that word, but when Orion and Gerard get deaded.
The Light Elves. Let's just say the Light Elves.
Yeah, the Light Elves. Okay. So they had a queen that is now in power because Skadi says so. And she was just a little bit older than Skadi. That was pointed out that she wasn't that old to be married to Gerard, right? She was just a few turns older than her. And she seems like she needs to be pulled out of herself too because of what they did to her. So I wonder if Sander's gonna be the one, and we're really gonna unite the elves in a family bond.
He spends so much time learning about elven culture and just getting knowledgeable there that has to be applied to something. So that would be a really great match.
It's racking my brain of other females. I mean, but it doesn't actually have to be a female, does it?
No, it doesn't have to be.
Because his brother's taking over the throne, so like we don't even have to have a little.
Speaking of littles, she does love the littles too. That was really heartwarming to see because she had such an experience being orphaned and being alone. When all this crap starts happening, like the fever that breaks out with the mom and dad, and they had these 3 children. They didn't know if the children would have parents anymore. That was really sweet how she came in and helped and tried to get their mind off of it by reading them, stories and tending to them.
And her goal in the Alver Kingdom is to set up ways for little kids to have books and things like that, and ways to get an education. And I can't wait for her to have her littles of her own, because I think she's gonna be a great mommy.
It was funny,
and then they're gonna have the love of literally everybody around them too.
Yeah. There was just so much love and care and respect within the family, and just including her in everything. That scene where she's trying to help Jonas's father sort through the mail because he has challenges reading, right? Which is another reason why his wife, Malin, helps do that kind of thing. But when she was helping him sort through the mail and they're having this conversation and she's like, "Can I call you Dad?" And he's just like, yeah. Like, of course. I just loved it.
And the scene where he tries to get her involved in their special heist that they do once a year against Malin, which is basically just him trying to find out what his birthday present is. And it's so cute because she's like, I don't want to do anything bad, but he's telling me to do this, but I really don't want to hurt these people.
And
then she finds out that it's a known thing, and it's like a joking manner. And she's like, oh, okay, I don't feel so bad. And Even the guards that she put into her mist or whatever didn't hold it against her. They held it against the king. And they didn't look at her as a monster, but in respect because of what she did. I think that was just another way for the Alvers to prove to her that they cared about her. And then, speaking of littles, when you hear the stories of the mom and dad, Case and Malin, and how they were orphaned, and then you hear about Alexi's orphan story, I think she started feeling more at home because they had the same or similar stories to her, and people cared about them, and they made them a part of their family, and not in this, well, we're trying to do charity for you way, but as in, we actually care about you as a person.
Everything is just so counter to what she was raised with, and especially like having Kara, her little handmaiden, who was just, really beating the etiquette into her and just the way of things, hierarchy speaking. But you start seeing, like, there was a moment in the beginning of the book when Skadi was just thinking through all the different kinds of fae and the elves and their power, and it mentions, oh, Arian's power as a light elf or whatever is he can travel through light. And as soon as that was mentioned, I was like, God damn it, something's gonna happen. He's gonna travel through light and fuck everything up.
Did you, when she got given the necklace that he ends up traveling through, did you see that right
Yes.
away as
Yes. I
something
was like,
nefarious?
come on. I mean, you don't spend that much time describing how the light is reflecting from it and how it's like bright and all of this. It's like, oh no, why would you do this?
Don't
I
type
was
that!
so angry. I was so angry at Eldorard. Honestly, she's sad about it, but I'm glad he died at the end of it because that was the only way this could have gone.
I hate everything that he did, but I can see maybe he was trying to safeguard her a little bit. I don't think he knew exactly who Gerard and Arian were, whether that because he didn't want to know or they were good at hiding it. I don't know. But I do think he wanted to have a way out if it turned bad for her. Like, I do think he was trying to safeguard her in some ways because I think he did love her and in even a minuscule way.
He did the best that he could in his misogynistic,
World.
culture set. Yep.
Speaking of his misogynistic world, their first trip back to the island where they're already in love with each other after 2 weeks, and the king was like, "What the hell happened?" Because he did not expect them to be that close with the way they
No, he did
left,
not.
right? And how Jonas wouldn't let her be relegated to behind him and made the king deal with the fact that he was making her on his level. I loved that for her because that was the first she was willing to take a step back, and he was like,
Yeah.
no,
Not my woman.
not my wife.
Have you seen Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley, that
Mm-hmm.
adaptation? Okay, there's the coach scene where Mr. Darcy holds her hand to help her into the coach. There was that scene like this when they first go to the Black Palace. Okay, first off, the whole coach scene in this book was so sexy and the tension was just chef's kiss. It was perfect.
I have not
But
watched Bridgerton, but I hear that there is a similar coach scene in
same.
this season. So
Same.
that
I
is
need
what
to
I was
catch up.
picturing this whole time.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, we need to watch that now. I love that scene so much.
I just loved in this book how we got both the serious and the lighter themes, because in the last couple books we've got mostly serious. And this one was a little bit of a fresh air coming through with all of the fun that was had and all of the antics and even just the mom and dad's antics. That scene got me with him
You know,
trying to find the birthday present, and even with Mira coming and trying to throw parties and Kate being against it, and like that just juxtaposition of fun and grump and love thrown in there.
you know what that whole thing reminded me of with Case trying to figure out his birthday present and treating it like this big bad mission, and then Mira just, being a sparkle of sunshine, always having to throw a lavish party. It reminded me of A Court of Frost and Starlight with just everything around trying to prepare for the holidays and the snowball fight that they have to do that's so serious. Like, you wanted your holiday interlude. This book kind of felt like a little bit of that. because it was so character driven and you got to see those really funny warm moments of them kind of breaking each other's walls. Can we talk about Jonas being a book spoiler? Like that was so funny to me.
Yes.
Like, no, she is a book girly through and through. Why would you ever spoil a book ending? There was a moment where he does that. He like tells her the ending of it, and she just screeches in rage. It's like, yes, that would be
Well, and
me.
then there's again with my love of Sander loving his sister, like he got in between Jonas and her when Jonas was trying to ruin another book, and he's like no, and got her out before she heard the ending and got her to a place where she could read the ending of the book, and kept Jonas until she would like sent him the signal. I loved that.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like there were 3 siblings, not just the like twins against everybody else, but she was
Yeah.
included.
LJ Andrews is just really good at depicting family
Mhm.
dynamics and especially sibling relationships too. Because you
And
really
what
don't
you
get a
want the
lot of that.
family dynamic to be, not just like
Yeah, it's happy and warm, and everyone's supportive of each other. And so, counter to my own family and upbringing experience, it's nice to read about it.
it's like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And I loved at the end how everybody came for her. And she didn't even think that everybody would come for her. She thought Jonas was coming for her.
Hmm.
But she didn't realize that she made an impact on everybody.
Yep, they all rallied and showed up for her.
Because when she got back, she was like, wait, why are they all here? And then I think she even assumed that they were there for Jonas. And they're like, no, we wanted you
They were like,
back.
come on, fuck Jonas. We're here for you. Like, you're our girl now, too. One thing that I really liked about this book is how LJ Andrews made there be consequences to Jonas being a flirt and a little philanderer guy that everyone wanted to hook up with, because that did cause conflict, like major conflict in this book.
Mhm.
So I'm glad it was kind of navigated this way with Oldun, I think was her name.
Yeah, he had to own up to his past and that he didn't always make the right choices.
No.
But But he owned up in such a brilliant way too, with going a little bit deeper, and that he was allowing his fears and his nightmares to drive him a little bit, because he never wanted to fall in love because that would be another person he could lose, right? And so he was waiting for the right person to fall in love. Just a swoon worthy moment. I'm going to jump all the way back to the beginning because that just reminded me. Who was the person that Case sent in right before the vows that he was hoping would talk Jonas out of it because his
Ari, Uncle
own,
Ari.
yes, his own marriage was arranged. and, and Ari came in. He's like, I don't know why your dad expected me to talk you out of this, because I have loved my wife for the last 20 turns, and she's gonna be mad that he thought I would talk you out of this, or that there was any sign of regret over those vows. But he told him that when she is the person you want on the battlefield with you, that's when you know you're in love. I was like, oh my God. Because that is how he tells Scotty that he's in love with her,
Mhm.
is it's now that I only want you on the battlefield with me. You're my person. I love you. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, yes.
But then when Ari came out to talk to Case, and he's like, I don't understand why you would think that I would have any regret, but she's going to hear about this.
You know, I love though how Jonas and Sanders' parents, especially the dad, in the things that he only did it from a place of caring. Like he was always worried about Scotty's well-being too. Like, is she going to be happy? Is she the one being imprisoned here, feeling like she's imprisoned? Because we don't want that either. But he made Jonas like, there's going to be no more like sleeping around. She's your
Mm-hmm.
wife now.
You
She
chose
was your
her.
choice. She was your choice, regardless of how this all fell into place. After that moment, I was like, he is one of my favorite characters in this book.
The mom did too. She's like, if I catch you, you're gonna be in trouble.
uh,
And knowing those two's powers, you
holy
could be in
shit.
trouble before you even know you're in trouble. Like,
It's like, no wonder Sandra didn't want to come home at the end of the last book.
yes. So when we see Malin on the battlefield, she's just like touching people, and they forget how to walk, and they forget how to hold a sword. So then she could
Breathe.
just kill them so easily. And then Case is over here using their fears to kill them, and that would be horrible. Both of those. If I died in either of those ways, it would be horrible, wouldn't it? You just forget
Yeah.
to breathe or how
You're
to
like,
breathe, and you're
uh-huh.
just sitting there suffocating because you don't know how to breathe anymore, or you forget you're sucked into your fear and it kills you, or even the twins where they can create a positive memory into a nightmare for you. Holy crap.
Turning it against you. That's
No
why
wonder they're like, your power is nothing. Don't worry about it. We're good.
Skadi, I mean, she was just such the perfect fit into this family. They had everything that she needed, the family support, all the love and care, the friends too. Even during the wedding, because Uncle Ari gets sent in to help him, and the whole Vaughn and all of those guys being kind of like the groomsmen, like giving him a pep talk about a relationship and stuff, you know? And then they send Mira, Livia, and Celine to help dress.
Celine was such an outcast in that scene for me because that is not how I see her. And she fit what I saw of her, where she was just out of place and
She,
whisper
the poor,
yelling to Livy about.
poor Celine though. It's like she has her own trauma, and you know the missing ear because she's missing an ear, right? It's not that it's mangled or anything. She's just down an entire ear. She's just rough. Our Lady of the Blades. But so you have all these three women in there helping Scotty get dressed for the wedding, the vows ceremony. And their job is to make her understand that Jonas is not this monster, this fiend that he has been made out to be. I just appreciate that moment so much because that's when Scotty was just taking a step back, like, okay, there's other people that care. Maybe all of the things that I've been noticing about him, I've been seeing them through the wrong lens.
Mm-hmm. At the start of that scene, it was funny to me because Mira starts going down the wrong way and reaffirming Scotty's opinion of him because Mira's like, he's such a fiend, but she means it in a loving, like, brotherly way.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Scotty's over here thinking he's going to chain her up and do bad things to her like she has experienced in the past. One thing that I never did, it was never, at least that I saw, did Orion and Kyan rape her? Because there are hints to that, but then it never fully goes into, yes, this happened.
There was one definite confirmation of it, and it's when she had back to back to back three kind of flashbacks in her mind about things that she experienced. One had to do with the death of her parents, like finding them dead beside
Mm-hmm.
her. One of them was her grandfather, like being stabbed through or whatever, was like something she was scared about. And the other one was a slight male figure thrusting into her really hard. So I took it to be it was him. And even just the notes that he would leave for her, those
Mm-hmm.
threatening messages the whole time, he was just alluding to a lot of that. But there's no doubt
That's
in
what
my
I
mind
was
that the guard
picking
was
up.
there,
But
right?
she never tells anybody that. She tells
No.
about the cutting and things like that, but she never tells Jonas that he
Mm-mm.
sexually assaulted her.
I feel like if she did that, he would have not been just disappeared by her power. Jonas would have
Well, I don't
had a
know
way.
because it was hers to make.
True, yeah.
Like it was her mark. She was the one wronged by them, and I think Jonas allowed her to do that so that she got the choice because she was never given a choice there, right? I think that was Jonas's way
Yeah,
of saying, you have power. You decide
yeah.
what happens here.
They're definitely dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Him and his father, Gerard. Okay.
Well, I don't know if they're dead, but they're not coming back.
She sucked them into a void wherever this in between place is where things can go. I'm like, if it's not an on page death, I'm always leery to say they're
Leary.
actually
Mm-hmm.
dead. And with so many more books in the series to go, I'm just, there has to be a big bad as much as we love our little cozy stories. The end of this book with
Tate.
Mira and Tate disappearing at sea on their way back to the Ever, that also is LJ Andrews making consequences for taking away, I feel like, the violence from the chasm because now that everyone can, you know, travel to and fro who knows what happened to them at sea now. So you just have kind of this domino effect happening to kind of lead up to the next.
Somebody put that there, right? That violence,
Mm-hmm.
witches or something, and we've never been introduced with who put it there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's another big bad we could see later on.
More sea witch
Is
stuff, possibly some more Narza next book. That would make sense.
yeah, but I don't think Narza's our big bad. I think Narza's going to
No.
be on the good side.
It's like I have no idea what's
Yeah.
going to happen.
But I did enjoy this book a lot.
Mm-hmm. It was fun. I was
It was a
texting you a
fun
lot.
ride. You were waiting the whole time for them to get there because there was a lot of foreshadowing that bad shit was going to happen. It was a very short battle.
It was a short battle, and didn't everyone show up? Like Eric and Livia showed up. Like everyone came to bat
Celine
for
showed
them.
up.
The parents, all the
Gavin.
parents. And we know how powerful the parents are. The battle could have been over even sooner, but I feel like the parents just they believe in their kids and just kind of let them handle it, and they're just there, you know.
Well, even
Kinda.
Case said that, like to Jonas. He's like, this is your kingdom. You lead this. What do you want us to do?
Is it Valen who connects Knot Haven to their realm, creates a land bridge essentially?
Yeah,
So that the
Livia's
island
dad.
isn't wandering anymore. Yeah. I mean, the dude's so freaking powerful.
We haven't seen the powers of Mira's family, which I'm guessing are going to be just as strong. We haven't seen Alexei's dad's powers that
Mm-hmm.
much.
Mira, I'm excited about because they referenced her realm like one time and they called it the Court of Stars. And we know that she is a hypnotic type of fae because she creates illusions. So I'm ready for all of the that type
The
of
fun.
magic and stuff. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And
Especially with
then
Tate.
who are the other kingdoms? Because we were introduced to another cousin this time. Gunnar, I think, maybe his name. But anyway, like I think we're in for even more fun with magical powers.
We knew this book would be fun because Jonas is such a light, hilarious character. And the dynamic with him and Sander even is always just been funny. But the next book is just Tate is so just outwardly closed off all the time and serious and tortured because of everything he went through. Like I'm ready for him to he's always gonna be grumpy, but warm up to Mira because she's so loud and out there and bright and vibrant.
I usually don't think this, but I think the sequels, like each book has been getting better in the series. And usually it's the first book that is amazing and then it kind of
It's like,
wanes a little bit as the stories go on. But I think that they're getting better. So I'm excited.
a lot of it has to do with just all of the relationship building, like really developing the side characters and stuff. Like that has been key. I feel like I just care about them. I want them to be happy, and I want to see their little funny love stories play out. I was sad about Dorson being killed
Oh, yeah.
because I didn't know whether we could trust him at first. I was like, is he the one sending notes? I mean, it wasn't, but he turned out to be a good guy, and I was sad that he died.
Well, even when Jonas thought he was telling him something bad about her, he was like, oh no, Prince. No, I'm saying she's worth it.
Oh, yeah.
That's the scene I was like, okay, I'm fully behind Dorset. And then he dies not so long after that.
I know. Ugh, so mad about it. There were a
But
couple
you
bar
always have to
scenes
have
too
that
that were
one
funny.
death that like gets you.
Yeah, that honorable character. There was just
I'm
so
glad
much
it wasn't
that I
Seawall.
liked. We are for sure going to see Sewell.
Him again.
Sewell. Probably Eric too. I mean, hello, the freaking ship captain thing. Is it clear that the book is actually going to be from Mira and Tate's perspective, or is it going to be perhaps like Celine and Finn or something, like wondering on a ship what
No,
happened
but
to them?
the end of it says some like that they go missing. And so I'm assuming it's about them.
Yeah. So either
And
it's
we
going to be
got a
from their
lot of lead up in
perspective.
this book about their relationship.
Hopefully, it's the next book
Because he's
for
been
sure.
assigned as her basically her guard. Just because Eric is a dick.
It's so funny seeing Eric and Livia through other people's eyes now. I think it was Jonas making an observation at the very beginning of the book how Livia was standing there beside him, looking kind of like wind blown and a little feral. That makes sense. That tracks like they're perfect together. It was just fun to see them. I loved all these little cameo moments that they came up again.
I really did enjoy this book, so hopefully we will enjoy the next book just as much, and hopefully you enjoyed this book and our little commentary about it.
Stay tuned for The Stolen Crown, which will come out in the next month or two, so we're excited to jump into that one. And then next week, we're hopping back into our Ravenhood read-along to finish that trilogy. My brain is not working today. Like, it's not. That's all we have to talk about, right?
Yeah. I'm just waiting for you to finish your sign out here.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube or if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, to leave a rating or review there, because it definitely helps a show like ours. And we will see you next week to talk about The Finish Line.
Bye.
Bye.